World-class lessons from the real estate industry's top 1%, empowering agents to think bigger and do more to create life by design. You get access to exclusive interviews with top producing real estate professionals. Listen in as we talk about their journey in the business, best practices, and lessons learned. Hosted by KIRO, NASRALAH, and John Scipione.
I mean, one thing that we always say in our office is just action is better than perfection, right?
This is Light It Up with Lighthouse Residential.
All right, you guys, welcome back to another episode of Light It Up podcast. Super excited to introduce you to today's guest, Mr. Jose Luis Morales out of Ventura County, California. Last year, Jose sold over 130 homes, representing $2.4 million in GCI, and he currently owns over 57 doors in California. Jose, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, buddy. Well, we always try to bring guests on the platform that will bring tremendous value to our viewers, and this was obviously an easy decision for us because, you know, every time you and I connect on whatever matter, it's always a lot of value. So it was an easy decision.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And that is my intention today. My intention is to provide as much value to your audience as I possibly can. So,
cool. Of course, man.
Thank you, man.
Of course. I'd say this is the first guest with the most professional podcast studio for sure.
Yeah.
Legit, man. So, Jose, I think today we wanted to focus mainly on all your efforts on social media, TikTok, Instagram. We know that you now have a full-time videographer following you around doing all sorts of crazy stuff. So let's dig deep on that today and figure out how that all came to be and you know why you saw a need for it and what it's doing for you.
Awesome, brother. Happy to share with you guys.
Yeah. So I guess at what point did you decide? Obviously, I know you and I have connected in the past on a level that was, you know, prospecting focused, outbound calling focused, right? We were all had our blinders on saying like, I need to find my next listing. I need to find my next listing. And, you know, without naming names here, the way that we all grew up, right, was to just be hunting for that next listing. At what point did you just say, hey, listen, I need more exposure. I need to get, you know, myself out there on social media and dig deeper on that?
Yeah. It's a good question. So, yeah, just like you, obviously I come from a background where it was prospecting based, and it served its purpose, you know? Like, it definitely helped me get to where I'm at, helped me buy a lot of rental properties. I kind of missed this whole social media thing twice. So, like, in 2011, I was doing Toastmasters, and I had a video actually get to like 300,000 views on YouTube. And it was, if you Googled how to dance banda, which is like Spanish cowboy music, I was like the top video. And it was funny because at that time, like I remember girls messaging me like, hey, we should go dancing together. Like, it served its purpose at that stage in my life. But I didn't really take it very seriously. I was just like, oh, whatever, like it's a fluke. I didn't have any techniques. I didn't have any tactics. It was just a video, how to dance banda. People found it valuable. And then if you look at the comments, people commented on it. But it didn't really register, bro. And this was like back in maybe 11 or 14. So had I actually recognized the value of it then and actually focused on it, dude, it would have been insane, because at that time it was just a lot newer and a lot less competitive as well too. Then when Facebook came around, I started doing Facebook Live videos, and I started getting like a lot of friend requests on Facebook from like Florida, different parts of the country. But once again, I didn't pay any attention to it. Then I just kind of started becoming more aware. I started seeing like what social had done for other people. So I looked at people like Grant Cardone, and I'm like, damn, who was Grant Cardone before social media? Like, you know, like obviously he was a good person, had money, had a good business, but with social, it just kind of blew it up. Then I had a person in my market. His name is Meet Kevin. He was a real estate agent. We're actually in the same market. And then I kind of saw what social media did for him, where it completely got him out of real estate and opened up like big doors to bigger opportunities. Now the guy's making probably like 20 million a year, somewhere around there. Then there's this other guy named Ryan Pineda. So I think for me, it was, yes, I had my blinders on. I missed it twice. And then I just saw people around me. And when I heard the numbers of what they were doing, I was like, man, one, you can influence a lot more people, meaning you can help a lot more people. But two, I mean, the money that we're making in real estate is insignificant compared to what a lot of these people were making. So it was a big eye opener for me.
Wow. You said a lot there. I feel like we should change the title of this episode to How to Dance. What is it? Banda?
Bamba. The clap there.
Well, we won't make you show us that one today, but let's take a step back for a second. So Toastmasters, that was a class, if I remember correctly, that's like how to speak publicly, right?
Yeah.
Speaking class?
Yeah, so I did that maybe like 2012 to 2015. I basically passed the first manual, which is like 10 different speeches, became Toastmaster president, and it just kind of taught me some basics about public speaking, and it got me uncomfortable. It actually helped out my listing presentation tremendously. Just being able to speak in front of a group of 40 people at 5:30 in the morning was a pretty good experience, and that obviously has helped transition into where we are today as well.
Awesome, man. So you got into that, and what, you decided to post a video on the internet or on YouTube, or somebody, or they posted it?
No, I actually posted it, and I just put how to dance banda, but that's actually the foundation to to YouTube, bro. Like a lot of times when people search on YouTube, they search how to do something, how to buy your first home, how to buy your first rental property, how to do this. I didn't know that at the time. I just thought like this video is about dancing banda. Let me title it How to Dance Banda. And it blew up to like 300 some thousand views. It's still up there. So if you guys want to see the video, comment below and John will include a link to the video at some point.
People are going to be tripping over themselves for that one.
I know. They're going to laugh. It looks like a completely different person too, bro. It's funny. I got a cowboy hat on. I got cowboy boots on. Got skin-tight jeans, Wranglers.
So you had the videos out there. You're realizing that you sort of missed the curve a couple times. Some people in your market were doing, big things. And finally the light went on and you said, hey, listen, I gotta get more exposure.
Well, I'll tell you what kind of lit it up. So the light bulb kind of clicked. There's a guy named Ryan Pineda who's a good friend of mine now. We're actually in a mastermind together. But I saw how much easier it made things. Like, so I'll give you an example. He needs to hire an employee. He'll post on his social, hey guys, looking for a new executive assistant. He gets like 200-300 applicants within an hour, bro, of people that already know who he is, already look up to him, already want to be around him, and want an opportunity to work with him. So when I saw that, I was just like, man, like having exposure not only will help you get better employees, it'll help you get more opportunities as well too. Meaning like the opportunities may be larger than real estate. It may be real estate can be just a stepping stone to getting to something bigger. Like some of these influencers like Logan Paul, they have their own drink, and that drink has a potential to reach like 100 million, 200 million, 500 million valuation, So that's kind of what got me interested. Not only that, but like the ability to be able to influence people, like to be able to actually genuinely be able to help and touch more people. I'll give you another thing that kind of trips me out sometimes. Like right now we're having a conversation, right? This could take about an hour,
right?
But this was an hour that we invested of our times. But what if this video reaches 500 hours of watch time? We only invested 1 hour, but it worked for us for 500 hours out there. So the ability for us to produce content and have it be on a cloud and have people view it after the fact. I have videos, bro, that like are just working while I'm asleep. Right now, I think we're averaging about 88 hours a day of watch time. So like I only have 24 hours in a day. and 88 hours people are watching me on YouTube. So that to me is like crazy, because imagine when it gets to the point where you only have 24 hours, but 5,000 hours a day people are watching you, 10,000 hours a day, 20,000 hours a day. That alone kind of trips me out, because it's almost like I invested 1 hour, but it's receiving 500 hours of benefit, or 5,000, or whatever it is.
And not only that, but it's people in all different countries at all times of the day, right? 24 hours a day. It's incredible to think of how widespread something can get.
Yeah, big time.
Through all these different platforms. Yeah. So talk to us about Ryan Pineda, because obviously he's a guy who's doing this at a very, very high level. How were you able to connect with him and get in front of him?
Yeah, so for some reason, something in my heart told me to reach out to him, and I asked him to shadow him. I had to pay him some money to shadow him at that time, because obviously it's a business. But I decided to pay him a very decent amount of money, and I got the opportunity to spend a day with him. I got that idea because when I was starting real estate, I shadowed the guy named Jim Sandoval. He's out of the San Fernando Valley, heavy hitter. And I went out, I shadowed him. I spent the whole day with him. And after I saw what he did, I went back to my office and I was like, man, this is real. Like literally the system works. Like you can literally take a listing, give it to your assistant, have your assistant process it, get back on the phones, take another listing, go back on another listing presentation, give it to your assistant, and take 10, 15 listings in a month. So that was a big eye opener for me then. So I kind of figured, well, if I did that with real estate, if I want to learn social, might as well learn social from somebody who's doing it. Not only that, but what I liked about him is that he was doing it in a very efficient manner, meaning that he would dedicate 1 day a week where he was recording 2 or 3 YouTube videos in a day, recording maybe 10 to 15 TikToks for the week, and he was done for the week. And I wanted to learn that. So I basically went out to Vegas, shadowed him, got to see him shoot a whole day's worth of content. And it was funny because when I was talking to the COO of the company, he was like, don't you want to get involved in future flipper coaching, or don't you want to get involved in this type of coaching? I was very specific as to what I wanted out of that day. I was like, nope, I just want one thing, and I'm willing to pay more money. This is all I want, though. I don't want the coaching. I know I can get a year's worth of value. I just want one thing. I just want to see what he does on 1 day of shooting content. And we basically mirrored that. So we basically, that's how we kind of do it now. We shoot 1 time a week or 1 time every 2 weeks, and we shoot enough content to happen for the whole week. Versus I know other influencers that are shooting every single day, and that's good. But at this point in my business, I'm still pretty involved in selling real estate. So that wouldn't work for me, because I'd be kind of stressing out like, oh man, what am I going to post today? You know, instead of just having the content already ready to go.
Sure. So what were some big takeaways when you shadowed Ryan Pineda?
The biggest one was he broke down his content in 3 different sections. So one, it was a hook, meaning like anytime you start a piece of video, having a hook, meaning something that grabs people's attention. And the reality is that we live in a 3-second world now, where if you don't catch people's attention within 3 seconds, they're going to scroll past the video and they're going to go into something else. So one of the mistakes that I would do, or that I see other people doing, like let's say they're shooting a TikTok, they're like, hi everybody, this is John, blah, 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 with blah, blah, blah. You've already lost their attention. Instead of, let me teach you how to make, let me teach you how to make, let me teach you how to make $1 million in less than 30 seconds. Boom. That's a hook right there. So that was the first step of it. And that goes for all content, you know. For YouTube, whenever we edit our YouTube videos, we edit some of the most interesting parts of the video at the very beginning, almost to hook them into wanting to watch the remaining of the video. So then he, from the hook, it was content. So let me teach you how to make $1 million in less than 30 seconds. The content is what you're going to teach them how to do. And then it's a call to action at the end. So that was one of the things that Ryan told me that, but then I read a book called Hook Point, and that's basically the foundation of the book, having a hook to start off the video. So it was hook, content, call to action. And the call to action can be different things. Go to this website, follow me on TikTok, subscribe to my YouTube channel. And that framework allowed me to kind of develop content in a way where it grabs people's attention. Now that I have people's attention, they'll actually listen to the message that I have to say. But if you don't grab people's attention, they're not going to listen to your message. So step one is just grabbing their attention. And a hook can be different things as well too. So like you see some of the things in the background, like the little house, the money, that can be a hook as well too. Your background can be a hook. Hook is not only words. It could be your background. It could be a stack of money. It could be a house. It could be a hot girl next to you. It could be a Lamborghini. It could be multiple different things.
Yeah. Can you have 3 hooks in one? Because I was intrigued by a bunch of those different things.
Yeah.
Tell me about the G-Wagon. So the G-Wagon's a hook in one of your videos or a couple of your videos, right?
That was the purpose of the G-Wagon, hook. Plus, it's a nice car. Yeah, but the purpose of it was to have it act as a hook.
Well, I know a lot of people feel uncomfortable talking about topics like this, right? Like money and cars and investing and talking about specific dollars and such. But tell me a little bit more about the G-Wagon. I mean, you said that was the purpose of it. Was it to get more attention?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. So like, if you look at other influencers use a vehicle as a hook, because it grabs people's attention. And some of it is negative attention, like you'll get negative comments, but I think it's all how you present it, I was talking to a guy from one of my mastermind groups, and he teaches a lot self-love and happiness and fulfillment and meditation. And I told him, like, hey, look, you may want to incorporate some better hooks into your channel. And he goes, well, how am I going to incorporate like hooks into, like, I'm talking about peace, love. I'm not talking about money. I'm like, well, it's all the way you present it. Like, you can say, like, you don't need this luxury car to be happy. You don't need this stack of money to be happy, but it's still a hook. So I basically, I think it all comes down to the presentation and also the intention as well, too, as to how you present it. My intention when I'm doing social media, although I do use like cars, money, it's never to come off arrogant. It's never to come off as cocky. It's never to come off as, hey, I can do this, or I'm better than you in any way, shape, or form. It's simply to grab people's attention and then provide some sort of educational value to be able to help them as well, too. That's the sole intention. Absolutely. The whole purpose of the social media is to educate. Like, if you look at the videos, they're all educational. They're all trying to teach you something. And some people are either going to be receptive to that, and some people are not going to be receptive to that. And it's hard because sometimes you put out a message trying to really help people and you get hate back. You get people saying like, oh, you're such a slumlord, or you're ripping people off, and it's like, you're never going to be able to please everybody, nor do you want to be able to please everybody, Yeah,
absolutely. The one thing, Jose, that comes clear to me is that there's what people see. You're a big advocate for EXP. You're always producing the videos, the content. You're in real estate actively producing. But when you say all those things that you just said, what I see is someone who found someone who's doing something at a high level, mimicked what they did, implemented it at the highest level possible, and executed on that. Essentially, the value that you provide to your viewers is the same thing, but you have to dress it up all pretty so people can actually want to learn to do what you did, which is pretty sad that this is the kind of world we're in, that you have to do that. But that's impressive that you were able to implement it as you did. I guess my question would be is what did you do, or what did you learn to be able to execute at the highest level that you do with those kind of ideas that you had?
As it relates to real estate, social media, or just in general?
Well, you followed the real estate guy to find out the systems and procedures to build a team to produce at a higher level, and you implemented that right away. And with the social media platform, you shadowed Ryan Pineda to do the same exact thing that you're doing now. So how did you learn, or what would you say is what would you give credit to taking massive action and being the way that you are right now?
I would just say just being around the right environment, if you hang around like people that aren't really doing very much, sometimes it's hard to be the oddball, in that group of you're the one that's always implementing. So I guess I've got a pretty good circle, bro. Like I've got like, obviously John is a good friend. I've got my buddy Angel. I've got Aaron. Now I'm friends with Ryan Pineda. So what I did is you're probably thinking that I went back after seeing Ryan and I implemented right away. It took me about 2 to 3 months to actually implement. So I actually went to a mastermind called Collective Genius. So another thing that I got from Ryan is I asked him, which masterminds are you a part of? And he mentioned one of them. And I said, okay, great. Well, I looked up who else was in that mastermind. And in that mastermind, there was 4 or 5 other influencers in that mastermind. There was a guy named Kong on TikTok who's got like 3 million followers. The guy that goes, don't try to be a baller if you ain't got no dollar. He's in that group. He's hilarious, bro. That guy's hilarious. But it was Ryan, Kong. There was this guy named Sam Sells Freedom or Sam Fast Freedom. There's a guy named RJ Pepino. And there's like probably one more. So I got involved in that mastermind. And when I got involved in that mastermind, the one thing I wanted to get out of it was not learn how to sell more houses, not learn how to invest more in real estate. It was, okay, I want to hang around the influencer group. So I started becoming friends with all of them. You know, I started sitting down with them, asking them, what are you guys doing tonight? And just hanging around them. So at the very first Collective Genius event that I went, I sat down with Kong. And I was like, hey, Kong, like, what advice would you give me if I'm trying to grow my social media? And he told me, do this, 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 and this. And then that's when I actually implemented it. So I heard it twice. And then also like, I hired a social media manager, and the social media manager was on me, bro. He was like, yo, dude, you need to shoot some content. You need to shoot some content. You need to shoot some content. And after he told me 3-4 times, then I got around to it. So I think it's a lot of it, one, committing to the idea, like meaning like hiring the social media manager, and then 2, just being around the right people and having the right or putting yourself in the right environment to want to see that it's possible, and then taking action on it. So for me, a lot of it is just seeing that it's real. Yeah. Once I see that it's real, then I'll take the action for it. But at first, dude, I didn't want to do it, man. They were like, oh, go shoot today. And I'm like, oh man, I'm so busy. I'm selling a bunch of real estate. This is such an inconvenience, you know? But then I started getting a little bit of traction on it, and I was like, whoa, like there's something here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe because you're just so damn good looking. Maybe that's
appreciate
that.
No, we've talked about it for years, and it's just, I think the holdup was that, it's easier to gun an idea down or shoot it down. Oh yeah, you can't track an ROI, drop it next, right?
That's why I shot it down. I mean, for years, because I was like, I just didn't see. I didn't mean to step on your toes there.
Built massive action towards keeping it, consistent.
I'm like, all right. And I feel like I'm the kind of guy where I have my blinders on sometimes, where I'm like listing. And I always had these outrageous goals of trying to get 25 listings a month. And I was always hitting 15, 16 and saying, oh shit, the month's over. And I didn't hit my goal. And I can't possibly have more time to go like film myself and then edit it and talk about things and figure out what to talk about and hooks and all this stuff. But it's like anything else from what I'm getting from Jose and other people we've spoken with, that you just have to sort of have the right mentor, set aside the time, and ultimately hire somebody, right? I mean, we could have set up our own podcast studio. We tried to, and it did not. It was not as easy as it looks, right? And we ended up in this great place. So hiring the right people and realizing that there's people that do things better than you out there.
Yeah,
no, absolutely. That's a good one. Jose, tell me more about your rental properties. That's something that I've always, after every mastermind that you guys have, John always comes in. He's like, yo, Jose got like 50-something rental properties. He got like a portfolio. Like, what am I doing? Like, I need to go build something.
Well, not only that, but Jose, how can you share your age?
34.
34, and he owns 57 doors.
Yeah.
So when did you buy your first one?
Go ahead.
When did I buy the first one? So I bought the first one in 2010. I actually bought it FHA. I bought it to live in it for a year. Then I moved out of the property. I bought it like right when I graduated college or university. It was funny because a lot of it is mindset. What I mean by that is that at that time, I had people in my ear telling me, well, look, the market's going to continue crashing. The banks are holding on to all this shadow inventory. And at that point, I said, look, I'm not a believer of trying to time the market, just so you guys know. At that time, I was like, well, I don't care if the market tanks even more. This deal makes sense to me. I was like, I can make $200 of positive cash flow, and I'm only having to invest $8,000 because of my first-time home buyer benefits. And I did the numbers based on the cash flow. That was a 24% return on investment or something like that. So I'm a cash flow investor as well too, meaning that a lot of people tell me, well, look, Jose, isn't it risky to own the amount of rentals that you own? I had an agent tell me the other day, like, what happens if the market crashes? And I told them, well, look, if you always invest based on positive cash flow, it doesn't really matter. Meaning there's some investors that invest based on like speculation, or they think that the marketplace is going to go up. I have friends in Canada who have to put $1,000 out of pocket every single month for their rental. That to me is not a good rental, because the only way you make money is if the property goes up in value. And the only way that you make money is if you cash out on the investment, which comes with some hefty taxes. So to me, like a good rental property is a property that produces positive cash flow after all expenses, after mortgage, taxes, and insurance. And if you can do that, where a property leaves you $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month, it actually helps you in your business as well too. So I made some mistakes as it relates to owning rental property, and then I've somewhat gone more intelligent about it. Some of the mistakes that I made was that I would put 20% down on a lot of my rentals, which would starve my real estate business. So it helped me because it forced me to produce, but then it also hurt me because I wasn't reinvesting back into the business. So I had an assistant, but I wasn't investing in additional marketing. I wasn't investing in podcasts. I wasn't investing in anything that would help the business grow. So it was good because real estate was cheap at that time, and I don't regret it. But looking back at it, maybe had I utilized a different strategy, maybe like a BRRRR method, which is you buy it, you rehab it, you rent it, you refinance it, and then you repeat it. I think I could have still bought the rentals. I probably could have bought more with the same capital, and I would have had money to invest back into the business, basically. So there's pros and there's also mistakes, and there's kind of things that I've learned along the way. But it starts off with one, and then after you do the first one, then the next one comes, the third one comes, fourth one, fifth one. Yeah. And then it just adds up.
And how would you say you found most of those properties? Was it through your everyday prospecting? Was it off-market opportunities through, other investors?
I would say like some of them on the MLS and some of them through prospecting. Like the first one, it was crazy. And this is kind of when I became a fan of like visualization. On my dream board, I put, I am going to buy a property in a very specific neighborhood, and it's going to happen at a very specific time at a certain price. I kid you not, dude. I get a phone call from a lady, says, hey, I was recommended to you by such and such person. I need to sell my property. I don't have any equity. I want to do a short sale, and I want to sell you my property, or I want to sell my property. And I looked at it, and I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, this is the exact property that I visualized on my dream board. And it's crazy because I started getting very specific on the dream board, but some of them were on the MLS. So there are deals on the MLS, and some of them came through prospecting. The largest building that I have is a 25-unit apartment. The story behind that one is that I was prospecting expireds around 2015. There was a guy that needed to sell a condo. His listing had expired. I called him. I went over, listed his property, sold it in a week. 2 years later, he calls me back. He's like, hey, I've got another one. So let's say that's 2017. In 2017, I started listening to Grant Cardone, and Grant Cardone says, buy apartments, buy apartments. So I started reading books on it, not thinking I could ever buy one. Just like, hey, look, he might be right. There may be something that I'm missing. Sold another property for that guy. Yeah. Guy calls me up in 2018 again to sell another property, and he tells me, look, you've sold 3 of my properties already. I actually have a 25-unit apartment that I want to sell. And he ended up selling me that 25-unit apartment in 2019, did owner financing for me and financed most of it for me. But the thing is that it came from an expired phone call, not even thinking about apartments. So sometimes some of the work that you're putting in, you may not realize the benefits of it. Like in 2015, I never thought that that phone call would lead to the 25-unit apartment, which has opened up tremendous doors now. But it actually did end up, it ended up helping me out tremendously.
Wow.
Yeah. I have a similar story with, but I didn't get the building at the end.
Which
not,
one?
Well, not yet. I don't want to name addresses yet, but there's a place that woman in Jersey City, we helped her sell her condo. Little, condo, 200,000, 225, something like that. And little, very, very unassuming woman. And one day she calls me back. She said, "Hey, you guys did a great job selling my condo. Can you rent this unit for me?" And I said, "Oh, okay. You have a unit, in this building?" She said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, wait a second. This is not a condo building. Do you own the whole building?" Very unassuming older woman. She's like, "Yeah, I own the whole damn building." There's like 30-something units in there.
That's awesome.
So I've been working on her, but she's, that's a long
Fingers crossed that works out.
That's a long-term conversation with her.
That vision board, becoming a reality with that, purchase is something that's pretty impressive. Is there anything else that was on that vision board that became
all of it, bro? All of it has come true. The thing is that it doesn't always come true like exactly how you picture it, but it's very similarly to how you pictured it. And then it doesn't always happen that year that you pictured it. And sometimes it happens a year or two later. So I have cars, I have watches. Like it was funny. I had a 2000 like a Mercedes E350 that I was buying at a time, and I had a Mercedes on my dream board, and I went to the dealership looking at a white one, and I was like, man, I'm not really convinced. Do you have any other colors? And he goes, "I got this gray one, like a charcoal gray." I got the charcoal gray. I come back like 3 months later, I look at my dream board, and there's a charcoal gray Mercedes Benz on there. I'm like, dude, like I went in there for a white one, And it wasn't like I linked it up at the time, but there's so many things on that dream board that have happened. So I actually get very specific on the dream boards, and then very specific as to I do like something called the year-end statement that basically almost like a statement, like you've already accomplished all your goals. And they're very specific, like if I say I'm going to make $2.4 million, I'll break it down. Be like, okay, from that $2.4 million, X is going to come from buyer's commissions. Buyer's agents are an X amount of split. This should be my net. This should be my expenses. From this net, I'm going to invest X amount of money. Like, let's say that from 2.4, you get to keep $1 million. I'm like, okay, great. Like from the $1 million, I'm going to put 300,000 on this apartment complex. I'm going to put another 300,000 here. I'm going to invest this amount here. And then I'm going to pay this amount in taxes. So it's like very, very like detailed whenever I do it. And that's helped me tremendously in terms of growing, because it's very specific. And then it doesn't always happen exactly how it is, but it happens pretty similar to it.
That's sweet. What's your, so you said there's like a visualization exercise, or you just have it in front of you at all times with due dates?
So I actually have a visual, but then I have a piece of paper as well too, that like I write it out. It's written out basically. And then I read that.
And that's the year end?
That's the year end statement, but then there's also an activity that I use. Like I actually spend the money that I'm doing my goals in. So like I'll spend the money in advance. So like meaning if my goal is to make 2.4 million, I go through an exercise where at the beginning of the year, I actually spend it. Meaning like, okay, from the 2.4, I'm going to be left with this amount of money. What am I going to do with this amount of money? And I'll say, well, I'm going to spend X on vacations. I'm going to spend X on houses. I'm going to spend X on personal. I'm going to spend X on buying real estate. I'm going to spend X on building out a studio. I'm going to spend Y on this. I'm going to keep this much, or I'm going to buy a G-Wagon or an S-Class or whatever it is, but I actually spend it. So what that exercise does for me is that at the end of the year, you realize that the amount of money that you want to make is really not that much, because you've already spent it in advance. You've already spent it in your head. So it's kind of crazy, but it helps.
Just to provide clarity, because I feel like a lot of people are going to be like, wait, tell me more. How do I do that? So you have the vision board in front of you. You're reading that statement every morning.
I'm not as diligent about every morning now, but there was a time in my career where I was reading it every morning, basically. Yeah. There was a time in my career where I would, with my buddy Angel, we would call each other at 5 in the morning and we would read that. We would read that out loud in a voicemail. I actually posted one of them recently on social that he sent me from an old voicemail that he had for me of me reading out the goals. But it's like it's very detailed, bro. It's like, okay, so from this amount of money, I'm gonna spend this on a down payment, I'm gonna spend that, this and this, and by the time it's done, you're like, oh man, all the money is gone, you know? And you didn't really spend it physically, but you spent it already in an activity already.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what's interesting when you think about it, or let me ask you this question before I lead into what I was about to say. What if you had to give a percentage of the things that you wrote down and you had on your vision board? You said all of them came true, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Or majority of them did.
Yeah.
Most of them. Knowing that the power of visualization, if you were to put something in front of you and write it out, it can become tangible in a reality. If you just were given, if let's say God said, here, Jose, here's a tool to be able to accomplish whatever you want, how big would you actually think instead of saying 2.4 million?
Yeah. Yeah, you can basically do this at any higher levels. And what's happened over time is that the exercise has gone bigger and bigger every single time, you know? So like it first started with my first goal was to make $100,000 in real estate, you know? That was my very first goal, like a year, not a month, you know? That was my very first goal. And then the numbers just keep getting bigger. So as you develop, the numbers keep getting bigger. The big one for me right now, what I'm working on, is I want to be in a position where I have freedom to do whatever I want at any given time. So basically meaning have enough residual to just do what you want when you want without any without having to worry about money. So basically like having the option, if you want to go to work, great, you can. If you don't have to, you know? So I think the big one for me, I'm not really motivated by cars, watches, physical things. Those things don't really motivate me. I think the big one for me is just freedom to be able to do what you want when you want, basically, at a young age too.
Yeah, yeah, and you get that through residual income.
Yeah.
Right?
So everything that I do, everything that I'm doing is based on growing the residual income, basically.
So would you say it's a fair exercise for people out there that are watching this to say, you know, at the beginning of each year, set aside some time to sort of reverse engineer your plan and say, all right, well, if I want to net X amount of dollars per month, right, I need to figure out how to, you know, get my top line income to whatever I need it to be, right? I need to sell X number of homes. I need to have X number of rental properties. These are what my expenses might be, and at the end of the day, I'll be able to walk away with this.
Well, the things that I've seen, bro, with people is that they're not very specific. Like, so I have people that tell me, hey, I want to buy a rental property. And I start asking them questions. I'll be like, okay, well, like, what neighborhood do you want this rental property to be in? Oh, just a good rental property. I'm like, okay. How much do you want to purchase the rental property in? Oh, I don't really know. Okay, how much money are you going to need for the down payment? How much positive cash flow is that rental property going to give you? And they're just not specific, bro. It's like almost like if I tell you, and I heard this from Anthony Robbins, if I tell you, John, I want more money. Like, how much is more money? You know, like $1, can I give you $1? And is that more money to you? Can I give you $100,000? Like, what's more money to you? So like, I think like where a lot of people need improvement would be just being more specific with the goals that you're setting, like being like very clear as to what you're getting. Like, so if I'm going to buy a rental property, I want to know like how many units it's going to be. I want to know price per square foot per unit, or price per unit. I want to know like down payment that I'm going to need, financing. I'll do the mortgage in advance. I'll do how much like I'm going to be collecting in rent. Like, so it's like very specific. And I think that if you get more specific with it, it's more likely to come true because you're more specific with it. Versus if you're very vague with the goal, like, hey, I just want more money, it's very unlikely that it's going to happen because you're not being specific enough as to how much more money you want, or when do you want it by as well too.
You know, that's an exercise we just went through with our team recently where we said, hey, you know, everybody always says, for some reason, everybody always uses the goal of $1 million. I want to make $1 million. And as we all know, right, you divide $1 million by 12 months, it's 83,333, whatever it comes to. And when you actually ask somebody, well, how would you spend $83,000 a month? They usually can't get past, you know, the 40,000 number, right? The nice house, the second house, the 2 cars, the vacations, the clothes, the dinner, all that stuff, and they usually get hung up around 400,000 or 500,000. Yeah. So it really does help to be specific because I think a lot of people realize when they do that exercise, they don't need as much as they think, and they wouldn't even know what to do with it.
Yeah. For me, I always bought rental property. So for me, the rental property kept me like motivated big time. So it kind of like, I haven't really upgraded my lifestyle. Like last year was the first year where I bought the G-Wagon and an S-Class. But besides that, it was like very conservatively relative to the amount of money that I was making. But my goal's been pretty clear that I'm not doing this for material things. I'm doing this for freedom, because once you have the freedom, you can do whatever you want. Like you can basically help people without money being an issue, and your brain goes from a survival brain, like just trying to survive, to actually like, hey dude, I can do whatever I want. You know, I could, if I want to jump on a podcast, I can jump on a podcast. If I want to go on a trip, I can. Yeah, it kind of changes life, basically.
Yeah. Well, I feel like you're the kind of person where when you say whatever you want, you know, that's not, the interpretation is not to just lay on the couch, right? Like you're not that kind of guy. You're the kind of guy where it's like, hey, I'll jump on a podcast, or I'll jump on Clubhouse, or I'll do a Zoom call with, you know, some agents in your downline, or pop into the office and provide value to the people on your team. You know, you're the kind of people, you know, you're the kind of person, at least in my experience, where when you say do whatever you want, that's still, the time is still well spent, and it's still adding value to the people around you.
Absolutely.
So I think if you could, I'd love to just sort of go back into some of the social real quick, and just, I know you recently hired a videographer. If you could just walk us through, sounds like what you said before was that about every 2 weeks or so, you spend a whole day filming. Walk us through how that works. How do you decide what goes on TikTok? How do you decide what goes on Instagram? How do you decide what to say? Who creates the content? Do you film it yourself?
Yeah.
Dig into that.
So I have like an idea board. So it's actually on a Trello board. And basically, like, let's say you and I are having a conversation, or I'm having a conversation with a client, and the client, like, I'll give you an example. The client was talking about paying down his principal on his house, but he's like, there's no point in me paying it down because my mortgage is not going to go down. And then I thought about like a mortgage recast, where you're basically, they don't refinance your loan, but they re-amortize your loan within with you paying with the new principal balance. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I don't think a lot of people know about the mortgage recast. So I put that on my idea board. So whenever the gentleman comes on Mondays or whatever day he comes, I'll look at that idea board and I'll start writing something out. So I'll be like, okay, and it's in the context of hook, content, or and call to action. So it's like for TikTok, it'll be like, how to lower your monthly payment by, you want to know, how do you lower your monthly payment? It's called the mortgage recast. That's the hook. And then I go over what a mortgage recast is, and then I give a call to action. So I have like an idea board. For TikTok, it's more of hook, content, call to action. For YouTube, it's more or less SEO. Like I'm very specific on topics. So like if I'm going to interview John, I'm going to ask you, what are 3 things that you're really good at? And I'm going to pick one of them, and I'm just going to go really deep on that. Because if we just focus on one topic, we can actually title it that topic. So if we say how to buy your first rental property, that can be the title, and that's a searchable title. For YouTube, it all comes down to your thumbnail, meaning your thumbnail is important because people are looking at that before they click on your video. So how good is your thumbnail? How catchy is your thumbnail? It comes down to your title because that's what people are searching in the YouTube bar. And it comes down to the tags as well too. So what I do on YouTube, just to kind of help out the viewers, is I go on the YouTube search menu and then I type in whatever I think my topic is going to be, and then I see what people are searching. So like if I go real estate on the search menu, it'll tell me the most frequently searched things about real estate basically on there. So I'll basically come up with a title prior to me doing the interview, and then I'll focus on that specific title throughout the entire interview basically. And then for Instagram, it's just like more like repurposing the YouTube video. So all the interviews that I do, we clip them up into small clips. We put them on Instagram. We take the TikToks that we did, we put them on the Reels, and then we post a couple more family things, and then we do stories as well too. So we do like Instagram stories, and that kind of just shows day-to-day life basically.
Yeah.
All of it is based
so
around
you said a
providing
lot
value,
there, so-
basically. That's the goal. All of it is based on education and providing value.
Right. And it's interesting to hear like sort of how your mind thinks, right? Because from what my takeaway from that was that you sort of reverse engineer it again, right? Like you go onto YouTube, you start the search, you figure out what people want to hear about and want to learn about. And then because you're so well versed, you could just, you know, sort of hone in on your topic based off of that.
I'll tell you what I did when I was, so this happened in the pandemic. So whenever the pandemic started, I started a challenge called 75 Hard. And then I was working out twice a day. And at that point, I was like, man, I want to get into YouTube. So
I'm laughing because
He pointed at me, but we both did it. And we were like committed. 4 days later, I'm like, I'm out. 6 days later, he was like, bro, this makes no sense. Like, I can't.
well, no, I made it like 50 days.
No, you did not make 50 days. You did not drink the gallon of
My
water
problem
for 50
was
days.
I was getting married on like day 55. So my motivation, I was going to be drinking at my wedding. Like, you know.
His birthday was like a month before he got married too. So he destroyed the whole
You know what
challenge
really
stuff.
killed me? Day 14, I realized there was a 30-day hard. And I was like, why the hell did I sign up for the 75? Who does that? But anyway, I'm sorry.
You were saying?
We hijacked your story.
So basically I took so it was actually good for me that the pandemic happened because it got rid of all distractions. You know, we were no longer going out to dinner. We were no longer going to family parties, and I'm Mexican. So we have like family parties like all the time, you know? What I did is I took a YouTube course. There's a guy named Sean Cannell. It's called the Video Ranking Academy. And at that time, I hired my social media manager, and we created a checklist for YouTube on how to rank. And that course taught me a lot about like the YouTube algorithm and how it works. And that was extremely helpful because it allowed me to kind of understand it. So what I've done whenever I'm having like, whenever I want to learn something, I kind of find people that are already doing that, and I try to learn from them as much as possible, either through a course, a book. So I started reading books on social media. I started reading, taking courses on social media, and I started hanging around people that were doing social media, and that helped me out tremendously. But the YouTube was, I wish I would have figured it out on my own, but it was a course that I took, and it's a really good course because it kind of breaks down how YouTube actually works, and that helped me out tremendously.
What was the name of the course?
Video Ranking Academy. It's by Sean Cannell.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
I could picture Jose sitting there in the class pissed. He's like, I could have made millions from that Bamba video. I got 300 views, and no one paid me $1.
Yeah, I could have.
Man.
That video, like, had I jumped on that trend, but I think I was looking at very similar to you guys. What's the ROI? You know?
Yeah. Well, just in closing, Jose, you know, one topic that we've talked about with actually a few other guests that are getting more and more involved in social media, would it have been possible for you to do what you're doing today on social if you didn't first build the track record of doing 130 plus deals?
It would have been really hard. And the reason is, like, there's people that say spend 10 years of your life mastering a subject, then go out and teach it. I think I could have done it sooner, but I don't think I would have provided enough value to the audience. Meaning, like, now, like, the topics that we're having on there are like super in-depth, like super educational topics. So no, I don't believe that I would have been to the level that I am now. Now I think I'm like I've got something really good to offer people now, because I spent 10 years of my life behind closed doors mastering a certain activity and acquiring a certain set of skills. Now I can provide that. I see some people that don't spend the 10 years and go out and teach it, and they're almost like just copying sometimes what other influencers are doing versus creating your own content. So it's I'm very grateful for the way that it happened, and I'm very grateful for that I took the time to learn real estate really well, which now I can actually provide good value to people.
I just find it humorous sometimes. You see people doing, you know, these Instagram, TikTok videos and trying to get all this exposure, but then when they bring the exposure to their platform and you sort of look up their track record, you know, they're doing 7 or 8 deals a year. And it's just sort of an interesting way to look at it. Like you said, you know, you can't really bring the value unless you have the experience.
Yeah,
right?
There's people that do real estate, like if you Google like live listing presentation on there, man, I cringe whenever I watch some of those videos because I see what they're teaching them. But the comments on there are like, "Oh my God, you changed my life," this and that, and I'm just thinking like, man, this stuff doesn't work. I've tried exactly what they're teaching you guys, and it doesn't work. And they've done maybe like 5 or 10 deals, maybe 20 deals in their entire career. So, but there is something to learn from them, you know, meaning like the stuff that to learn from them is not what they're teaching you in real estate. The stuff to learn from them is how to get the attention and how to build a community and an audience. So for different people, if you can just take like, okay, maybe I can't learn that aspect from them, but what can I learn from them? And if you just kind of think about it from that perspective and learn that part of it, you'll be in a better position as well, too.
Awesome. Awesome, man. Well, listen, we really appreciate you spending some time with us today. I think people will find tremendous value. It's always inspirational to speak with you. If you could, just tell people what's the best way to get in touch with you if they wanted to reach out. Yeah,
I'd probably say Instagram. Just go to Jose Luis Morales, Luis with a Z, and then Morales with an S. That'd probably be the best way. If you're looking for entertaining content, go on TikTok. If you're looking for like in-depth real estate videos, I'd go on YouTube, and you can find some like really in-depth topics because I'm analytical. So they're pretty in-depth. Yeah.
I'm going to look the Bamba video today, and I appreciate that video in advance, so thank you.
All right, guys.
Jose, man, thank you again.
I appreciate you guys' time, and thank you so much for having me on. And I know I was all over the place, but hope your audience gets some value out of today's.
No, this was awesome.
No, I think tremendous value, man. Jose, I'm just wondering, are you actually wearing pants?
No, I'm not. Nah.
All right, stand up, please. Come on. Yes! I knew it. I knew it, man.